The last week in Zimbabwe started off on a high, literally. The government announced it would legalize the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. Zimbabwe became the second country in Africa after Lesotho granted its first licenses for marijuana production in September last year. The problem is a lot of people didn't hear the medicinal purposes part. All we heard was that mbanje was now legal. Well, sorry to disappoint you. No, you can't just buy a joint from your favorite airtime vendor and freely light up in the middle of the street. You can't plant weed in your backyard. Not yet. It's a bit more complicated than that. According to the regulations, you need a license to grow weed. And to get that license, you need at least 50 grand. To renew that license, you need to pay another 20 grand. Your farm will need to be inspected and you'll have to pay 2,500 just for that inspection. On top of that, you'll need to disclose the actual number of plants you will grow. They will need to know how many grams you produced. Every gram must be accounted for. This is Zimbabwe though. Is our law enforcement disciplined enough to regulate such a tricky industry? Well, we wait and see. But this is industry standards. Zimbabwe is not alone in making it hard to sell and grow weed. In Canada, they legalized medicinal marijuana back in 2001. They are right now working on a law to simply make it legal to smoke weed for recreational purposes. Right now, individuals over there get a license to grow their own weed at home, but it's just as hard to get that license. In the USA, you have to pay up to $125,000 a year to grow weed. Just like in Zimbabwe, what this means is only a few big companies will be able to grow weed legally. This is big business and we hope we won't end up seeing weed being monopolized by a few corporations. How sad would that be? According to the Forbes magazine, the international market for weed is expected to grow to 31.4 billion in 3 years' time. Right now, the whole market is worth 7.7 billion. This is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. Well, this government is open for business, isn't it? Once they see the figures, they should make it a bit easier to grow and sell weed. So, has Zimbabwe legalized the smoking of weed? Not quite. It's only for research and medicinal purposes. Can you just grow your own weed and sell it, Pamsika? No. Will you still be arrested for growing and selling mbanje? Yes. And you can go to jail for up to 12 years for that. So be careful. And by the way, whose idea was it to legalize weed anyway? According to Jonathan Moy on Twitter, this was all former VP Mpoko's idea. That explains a lot, doesn't it? Or maybe our president saw all the memes of him going around dressed up as a Rasta and decided to be a good sport. This will be big export business and the financial potential is exponential. It's a good move by the government, and over time, hopefully license fees will go down and more players from tech and business will get involved.